Most people don't even realize that the limits they are fighting every day are not walls. They're habits, they're memories, they're old beliefs that someone else handed to them. Somewhere in life you were taught what to fear, what you can't do, what you're not good enough for, and you accepted it, not because it was true, but because you heard it enough times that it became familiar. Humans don't cling to what's true, we cling to what's familiar, and so we end up living inside invisible prisons with doors that were never locked. Limits are learned, and if something is learned, it can be unlearned. Think about a time in your life when you were a kid. You didn't care what people thought. You didn't worry about failure. You saw something, you wanted it, and you went for it. You fell, you got up, you kept moving. No fear of embarrassment, no fear of judgment, no belief that you were not enough. That courage, that boldness, that limitless mindset, it was real. You were born with that. So the question is, where did it go? Who taught you to doubt yourself? Who taught you to settle? Who told you that your dreams were too big? It wasn't your nature. It was conditioning. Every time someone said, be realistic, every time you failed and someone laughed, every time you had an idea and someone told you it was stupid, your mind started adopting limits. You never chose, and the mind will defend whatever it believes. If you believe you aren't smart enough, strong enough, qualified enough, your brain will find evidence to prove it. Not because it's true, but because your identity is trying to stay consistent. But the moment you realize those limits were installed, not born in you, you take back control. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, who told me I couldn't? You stop treating fear like a stop sign and start treating it like a suggestion. Fear says, what if it goes wrong? Belief says, what if this is the moment everything changes? And the truth is, you'll never know your capability until you push into the places where you feel uncomfortable. Every breakthrough in life comes after the moment you want to quit. The mind will scream, stop, this is too hard, you're not ready. But that voice is not protecting you, it's protecting the identity you've outgrown. Growth threatens the old you. That's why change feels painful. That's why leveling up feels like breaking, because you're destroying the limits that used to keep you small. The greatest transformation of your life happens when you stop negotiating with your excuses, when the story changes from I can't to I will, when you stop waiting for permission and realize no one is coming to save you, no one is coming to validate you, no one is coming to fix your life. You are the only one powerful enough to rewrite your story. You don't need more time, more talent, or more motivation. You need a decision to stop letting the past dictate your future, a decision to stop letting fear write your script, a decision to stop accepting the limits the world handed you. Most people wait for confidence before they act, but confidence doesn't show up first. Action does. You act, you fail, you learn, you adjust, you grow. And from that growth, confidence appears. The only reason some people succeed is because they kept moving along after everyone else stopped. And let me tell you something real. Belief is not built in comfort. Belief is built in battle. When you decide to do something hard, when you show up on the days you don't feel like it, when you push yourself one step further than yesterday, that's when you discover who you really are. Not the version of you shaped by doubt, not the version shaped by fear, the version shaped by courage. The limits you think you have, they're not walls, they're mirrors. They reflect who you used to be, not who you're becoming. Every time you break one, you expand the size of your life. Every time you push beyond what scares you, your identity shifts. You stop saying, I hope, and start saying, I'm building. You stop saying, maybe someday, and start saying, why not today? You don't overcome your limits by thinking. You overcome them by proving to yourself over and over again that the voice inside you is louder than the voice outside. Your life will change the second you choose to believe in your power more than your excuses, because once you believe you are capable, the world stops being intimidating and starts becoming an opportunity. So the real question is not what are your limits. The real question is how many of them are lies you've accepted. The moment you decide to believe in yourself more than you believe in your fears, more than you believe in your past, more than you believe in the opinions of others, that's the moment your life transforms forever. Most people think success starts with talent, with luck, with resources, with opportunity, but the truth is none of those are the starting point. The real beginning of everything in your life is identity, who you believe you are. Because you don't rise to the level of your goals, you rise to the level of your standards. And your standards are built from your identity. You can say you want success, you can say you want change, you can say you want a new life, but if deep down you still believe you're someone who quits when it gets hard, someone who always ends up losing, someone who never gets the break, you will sabotage yourself every time. Identity is the thermostat of life. You can have all the motivation in the world, you can wake up fired up, you can make plans, set goals, write vision boards, but if your thermostat is set to self-doubt, insecurity, or fear, you will always come back down to the same emotional temperature. That's why some people start strong and then fade. They're trying to build a future on top of an old identity. and the identity always wins. Belief is not about saying positive words. Belief is the feeling of certainty that something is true. The moment you believe something, your brain stops questioning it. If you believe you are powerful, you don't negotiate with fear. If you believe you are capable, you don't ask for permission. If you believe you are worthy, you don't shrink when life challenges you. But if deep inside you believe you are broken, unworthy, unlucky, or limited, you will turn down opportunities that could change your life because you don't think you belong there. The world responds to what you communicate, but life responds to what you believe. You're not held back by the world around you. You're held back by the world within you. Everything changes the moment you start seeing yourself as enough to try, enough to learn, enough to win, enough to grow, enough to create something extraordinary. Most people never take that step because they're waiting for evidence. They think, once I succeed, I'll believe in myself. But that's not how life works. You don't need evidence to believe in yourself. You need belief to create the evidence. When someone says, I'm just not confident, what they're really saying is, I'm waiting for proof before I trust myself. Confidence is not built through comfort. Confidence is built through courage. When you try something you've never done, when you push into new territory, when you take action without guarantees, that's how confidence is born. Every time you do something you once thought you couldn't do, your identity shifts. The world didn't change, you changed. And that's what self-belief really is. It's not arrogance, it's not pretending, it's not fake positivity. It's the decision to stop identifying with the version of you that life tried to shrink. Because identity comes from repetition. If you fail and repeat the story, I'm a failure, your identity becomes failure. But if you fail and repeat the story, I'm learning, your identity becomes progress. And progress builds power. Think about how many people say, that's just who I am. I'm shy, I'm unlucky, I'm not disciplined. No, that's not who you are. That's who you've practiced being. You practice self-doubt. You practiced hesitation. You practice quitting. You practice playing small. And you got good at it, but that also means you can practice the opposite. You can practice courage. You can practice consistency. You can practice resilience. You can practice belief. The strongest force in the human mind is the need to stay consistent with who we believe we are. If you see yourself as powerful, you will do powerful things. If you see yourself as weak, you will hide from opportunity. If you see yourself as a leader, you'll take responsibility. If you see yourself as a victim, you'll always look for someone to blame. Your identity is choosing your future long before your actions do. So ask yourself, who have you been telling yourself you are? What identity have you been defending? Because the moment you change the way you see yourself, your entire world shifts. You stop saying, I hope, and start saying, I decide. You stop saying maybe and start saying absolutely. You stop surviving and start building. Identity is the root of your destiny. If you want a new life, you don't start by changing the outside. You start by changing the inside. You start by rewriting the story of who you are. You start by declaring, I am someone who finishes. I am someone who grows. I am someone who shows up even when it's hard. I am someone with purpose. Say it before you see it. Act on it before you feel it. Identity comes first. Results come second, because belief creates behavior, and behavior creates results. When you believe deeply enough, you find a way. When you believe you're capable, resourceful, powerful, you stop waiting for a path and you start building one. You stop accepting limits and you start breaking them. The world makes room for people who know where they're going and who they are becoming. And the only thing standing between you and that version of you is the identity you choose to live in today. So if you want to change your life, don't increase your goals. Upgrade your identity. Stop believing in your limits and start believing in the greatness that's been waiting inside you all along. Most people think self-belief is something you either have or don't. They think confidence is a personality trait. Some are born with it, some aren't. But that's not how it works. Confidence doesn't just appear. Belief doesn't magically show up one day. Self-belief is a muscle, and like every muscle, if you don't use it, it gets weak. If you never push it, it never grows. And the only way to strengthen that muscle is to do the things that scare you, challenge you, stretch you, and force you to rise. Every time you take a step towards something that feels uncertain or intimidating, you're building the muscle of belief. When you take action despite fear, you're strengthening your identity. But when you hesitate, when you avoid, when you talk yourself out of your own greatness, you're training that muscle in the opposite direction. You're teaching your mind to trust your fear more than your power, and the mind learns quickly. If you keep avoiding challenges, it becomes your habit. If you keep backing down, it becomes your identity. Think about the gym. If someone lifts weights once, they don't walk out with strength. Growth comes from repetition, from consistency, from showing up on the days when you don't feel like it. Self-belief works the same way. The more you face discomfort, the more you push through resistance, the more you stop negotiating with your excuses, the stronger you become. You start proving to yourself, I can handle more than I thought. I can go further than I expected. And nothing in life is more powerful than becoming a person who trusts themselves. People say they want a better life, but they wait for the perfect moment. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until the fear goes away. But fear doesn't leave first. Action comes first. Courage comes first. You build belief by stepping into the unknown, not waiting for confidence to magically appear. The people you admire, the ones who look fearless, they don't act because they have no fear. They act because they built the muscle to move anyway. Every breakthrough requires discomfort. Growth never comes from comfort. Comfort keeps you the same. Discomfort forces evolution. When you try something new, when you risk failing, when you step into a challenge you could avoid, your brain learns something. We didn't die. We survived this. We can go further. That's self-belief training. And the more you train it, the more unstoppable you become. There will always be days you don't feel motivated, days you don't feel strong, days you doubt yourself. And those are the days that matter most. Anyone can move when life feels easy. Anyone can take action when everything is going their way. Strength is built on the days you want to quit and you show up anyway. Confidence is built on the days your mind says you can't and you take one more step just to prove it wrong. When you push through something you once thought was impossible, you strip away a limit that controlled you. You build a new pattern, a new memory, a new identity, and that identity becomes your foundation. Because the moment you start believing you can overcome challenges, challenges lose their power over you. Small actions lead to massive identity shifts. You don't need to change your whole life today. You just need to prove to yourself you're capable of one more step, one more rep, one more attempt. Every step forward says to your mind, I keep going, I don't stop, I don't back down. That's how belief is built. Not in a single moment, but in thousands of small victories you forced out of yourself when quitting would have been easier. And failure doesn't take away your strength. Failure builds it. When you fail and keep going, you teach your brain resilience. You teach it that setbacks aren't the end, they're part of the process. Every champion became a champion by failing more times than the average person even tried. They weren't fearless, they were consistent. You can't think your way into belief, you have to act your way into it, you have to earn it with effort, you have to build it with repetition, you have to show your mind what you're capable of, not just talk about it. Every time you stretch yourself, every time you decide to move instead of sit still, every time you choose courage over comfort, you grow. And here's the beautiful part. Once self-belief becomes strong enough, everything in your life changes. You stop needing approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop waiting for permission. You start trusting your voice, your path, your power. You stop letting fear make decisions for you. You stop shrinking. You start expanding. Self-belief isn't a gift. It's a decision, a commitment, a practice. And the more you train it, the more the world starts opening up in front of you. Because life doesn't get easier. You get stronger. And when that belief in yourself becomes unshakable, nothing can stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. So stop waiting to feel confident and start training confidence through action, because the moment you do, you'll realize that the limits you once feared had no power at all. Most people are waiting for clarity before they move. They think they need a perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect mindset, the perfect confidence, but clarity doesn't come first. Movement comes first. You don't get certainty by thinking. You get certainty by doing. Action destroys doubt. The moment you step forward, even if you don't have it all figured out, you break the power that hesitation has over your life. Think about how many ideas die in someone's mind because they overthink them. They imagine all the things that could go wrong. They imagine the judgment, the failure, the embarrassment. They sit still, hoping one day they'll suddenly feel ready. But waiting is the fastest way to kill dreams. You don't feel ready before you start. You feel ready because you started. Every step you take builds momentum. Every action you take builds courage. The more you move, the easier it becomes to continue, because momentum is a force. Once you start moving, you stop being a prisoner of your thoughts. Your mind can be your greatest enemy when you're stagnant. When you sit still, fear has time to speak, doubt has room to grow, excuses multiply. But when you take action, any action, you interrupt the cycle. You tell your brain, we're not negotiating, we're moving. Action is louder than fear. Action is the language of belief. People think confidence leads to action, but in reality, action leads to confidence. Have you ever noticed how heavy something feels before you start and how light it feels once you begin? That phone call you were afraid to make, that workout you tried to skip, that decision you kept delaying, the moment you acted, the weight disappeared. That's because fear is loudest in anticipation and quietest in execution. Once you start, your mind stops imagining the worst and starts dealing with the real. And reality is always easier to handle than the story you create in your head. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need progress. You don't need a giant leap. You just need one step. That step gives you feedback. Feedback gives you learning. Learning gives you clarity. Clarity gives you direction. Most people want the map before they take the journey, but you only get the map by taking the first mile. Life reveals what's possible only after you move. And here's the truth. Even the wrong action teaches more than standing still. Standing still teaches nothing, except how to doubt yourself. At least when you move, you learn, you adjust, you grow, you adapt, you find out what works and what doesn't. Failure becomes data. Mistakes become strategy. You start realizing the world isn't as scary as you imagined. The walls you thought were unbreakable are just made of paper. And you only discover that by pushing against them. Action creates identity. When you repeatedly take action, your brain starts to recognize, I'm someone who makes things happen. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who doesn't stop. Your self-image changes. Your belief strengthens. People who take action don't need motivation. They create it. They don't need permission. They give it to themselves. They don't hope for a new life. They build it with their hands. Most people are held hostage by the word later. Later is a trap. Later becomes next week, next month, next year, and eventually never. But the moment you decide not later, now everything changes. Procrastination is not a time problem. It's an identity problem. When you see yourself as someone who acts, procrastination dies. Results replace excuses. Movement replaces fear. Action also attracts opportunity. When you start putting energy out into the world responds. People notice effort, doors open, connections appear, ideas evolve. You see possibilities you couldn't see when you were stuck thinking. Life rewards movement. Life responds to momentum. You don't need to know the finish line to take the first step. You don't need confidence to start the journey. You need courage to take the step that scares you. And every time you take that step, you build a new reference point. Proof that you are stronger than your fear, proof that you can handle uncertainty, proof that you're capable of more than you believed. One action can change everything. One phone call, one decision, one risk, one moment of courage. Sometimes your entire life shifts because you chose to move rather than wait. And once you move, even if you're unsure, you send a message to your brain, I am in control, I don't sit still, I don't get stuck, I take action. And that message becomes your identity. So stop waiting, stop overthinking, stop letting fear write the script. You don't need the whole path. You just need the first step. Take it even if you're scared. Take it even if it's messy. Take it even if you don't feel ready. Because the second you move, doubt loses power and your future gains momentum. And the moment you take action, your life starts moving with you. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding failure. And they don't even realize that by avoiding failure, they're also avoiding growth. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Every person you admire, every champion, every leader, every entrepreneur, every world changer has one thing in common. They failed and they kept going. The difference between those who make it and those who stay stuck isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to fall, get back up, and go again. When you fail, it doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means you were brave enough to try. Most people never try. They play life safe, small, protected, comfortable. They'd rather be guaranteed average than risk becoming extraordinary. But the truth is, growth never happens in comfort. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it costs you your future. And failure is a sign that you are pushing beyond your limits, stretching your potential, stepping into the unknown. Failure means you're alive. Failure means you're in the game. The world teaches us to fear the wrong thing. People are terrified of failing, but they should be terrified of regret. Failure hurts for a moment, but regret hurts for a lifetime. When you fail, you heal. When you regret, you carry the weight of what if forever. And that pain is far heavier than the pain of trying and falling short. At least failure gives you lessons. Regret gives you nothing. Every setback is feedback. Every mistake is information. Every loss sharpens you. People think failure takes you backwards, but it actually moves you forward because you learn something. You couldn't have learned by staying still. You learn what doesn't work. You learn who you are under pressure. You learn how much you can handle. You learn how to get stronger. You learn to adjust. Success is built on layers of failure that the world never sees. Look around at the people who are succeeding. You're seeing the finished chapter, but you didn't see the drafts. You didn't see the nights they doubted themselves. You didn't see the ideas that fell apart. You didn't see the plans that didn't work. You didn't see the times they questioned if they were crazy. You didn't see the failures they carried on their back while they kept walking forward. The truth is, the most successful people in the world have failed more times than the average person has even attempted. So when something goes wrong, when you fall, when your plan doesn't work, when you hear no instead of yes, that doesn't mean stop. That means keep going. That means you're getting closer. That means life is preparing you. You don't get strength without struggle. You don't get wisdom without mistakes. You don't get resilience without resistance. Failure is your training. It is shaping you into someone who can hold the success you're asking for. Some people never succeed because the first time they fall, they label themselves as broken. They take failure personally. They say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. But failure doesn't mean stop. It means adjust. It means learn. It means try differently. Failure is a sign that your dream is real enough to require effort. If your dream didn't scare you or challenge you, it wouldn't be worth anything. You can fail 1,000 times and still win. You only lose when you stop trying. The world doesn't remember the times you fell. It remembers the time you stood back up and changed everything. One success can erase years of failure. One breakthrough can make every setback worth it. One moment of courage can turn your entire life around. And don't forget this, failure reveals who you are becoming. When life knocks you down, you have two choices: stay down or get up with more determination. If you stay down, your identity becomes fear. If you get up, your identity becomes unstoppable. Failure forces you to find strength you didn't know you had. It forces you to rise with deeper hunger, deeper clarity, deeper commitment. And that version of you, the one who refuses to quit, is the version capable of winning. Sometimes the universe delays your success because the person you are today is not ready for the life you're asking for. Failure builds the capacity. Failure teaches responsibility. Failure gives you humility. Failure gives you gratitude. Failure forces you to earn it. And when you earn something through struggle, you appreciate it, you protect it, you honor it. Easy success creates weak minds. Hard-earned success creates leaders. So when you fall, don't say, why me? Say, try me. Say, this is part of my journey. Say, this is shaping me. Say, I'm not finished yet. When you fail, don't hide, don't shrink, don't run. Stand up, breathe, reset, then move again. Your power isn't proven when everything goes right. Your power is proven when everything goes wrong. You keep going anyway. Failure is not the end. It's the beginning of the version of you who wins. Failure is not a dead end. It's a detour. Failure is not losing. It's learning. Failure means you were brave enough to chase something bigger than your comfort zone. Failure is proof that you dared to step into the arena while others stayed safe watching from the sidelines. So don't fear failure. Fear being in the exact same place 1 year from now because you were too afraid to take a chance. And the moment you realize failure is simply fuel, you stop running from it. And you start using it to build the life you deserve. Most people don't understand how powerful they really are because they're too focused on what they haven't done yet instead of who they are becoming. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not the opinions people formed about you. You are not the version of yourself that once settled, once hesitated, once played small. That was a chapter, not the book. And the moment you decide to rewrite your story, everything in your life begins to shift. Every transformation starts with a choice. Not a feeling, not a miracle, not the perfect moment. A decision that says, I'm done living below my potential. I'm done letting fear make my decisions. I'm done believing the lies my limits taught me. The second you make that choice, you flip the switch from wishing to building, from hoping to creating. And that is the moment your identity changes. You can't control every circumstance in your life, but you can control what you do with those circumstances. You can't stop pain from coming, but you can choose not to live in it. You can't stop doubt from whispering, but you can choose which voice you listen to. You can't control the world, but you can control your response. And that response determines your direction. People keep waiting for something outside themselves to change before they take their life seriously. They wait for motivation, for money, for support, for confidence, for timing. But life rewards the ones who take responsibility, the ones who stop pointing at the world and start pointing at themselves, the ones who say, if my life is going to change, it starts with me, my mindset, my standards, my decisions, my daily actions. Responsibility is not a burden, it's power, it's freedom. It's the moment you stop being a passenger and take the wheel. When you blame your circumstances, you give away your power. When you own your choices, you get it back. You can be shaped by your excuses or sharpened by your effort. You can be defined by what hurt you or driven by what grows you. You can stay a character in someone else's story, or you can become the author of your own. Life will always test you. It will push you, break you, challenge you. It will give you reasons to quit, but those moments are not punishment. They're invitation, an invitation to rise, an invitation to evolve, an invitation to discover what you're made of. Pressure doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. Tough times don't weaken you. They build you. Adversity doesn't stop your destiny. It activates it. And when you start treating challenges as training instead of tragedy, everything changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a warrior. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this building in me? Strength, resilience, wisdom, discipline, focus, patience, hunger, those qualities are not born from comfort. They are forged in the moments when life doesn't go your way. There will be days you feel tired, days when the world feels heavy, days when nothing seems to move fast enough. That's when you remind yourself why you started. That's when you anchor yourself to the vision of the person you are becoming. And that version of you, the stronger version, the disciplined version, the focused version, is worth every sacrifice. Your future self is worth fighting for. You are capable of so much more than you've allowed yourself to believe. You have survived things you once thought would break you. You have overcome challenges you once felt unprepared for. You've had days where quitting would have been easier, but you're still here. That alone proves your strength. That alone proves your potential. You don't need validation to move forward. You don't need approval to become who you're meant to be. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You just need to decide. Life is not waiting on your limitations. It's waiting on your leadership. Leadership of your mind, leadership of your emotions, leadership of your actions. When you show up for your life, fully committed, fully responsible, fully engaged, doors open, opportunities appear, confidence grows. The world responds to those who take ownership of their destiny. You can spend your life defending your excuses, or you can spend your life building your legacy. You can hold on to your fears, or you can hold on to your future, but you can't hold both. At some point, you have to decide, am I done being the old version of myself? Am I done living below the life I want? Am I done letting fear call the shots? Because the moment you say yes, the world around you starts shifting. Believe in the power that's inside you more than the limits around you. Believe in your decisions more than your doubts. Believe in the future you are building, even if no one sees it yet. You are stronger than you think. You are smarter than you think. You are more capable than you've ever given yourself credit for. Your story is not finished. And the next chapter is written by the choices you make today. So take responsibility, take ownership, take control back from the excuses that once held you down. Your destiny begins when your excuses end.